Hey everyone, this is Monica Castaneda, and today we are talking about how to raise the vibration of your home so that the things that happen around you don't matter much. And so you all know about Feng Shui. That's the reason you're getting my emails. That's the reason you're in my book. And I think I haven't been good enough about emphasizing in the past how important it is that you don't just do any Feng Shui, but that you do the 9 steps to Feng Shui system. And so I have had clients that it seemed to me it was a mystery that the system didn't seem to be working for them as it should. And I kept looking at things. I kept going back. Let's go back to step one. Let's do step one all over again. And still things were not jiving. And then I found out that they were actually doing the compass school feng shui in the background. They were doing the things I was asking them to do. Then they were going on the internet and doing other things and not allowing the process to unfold because they were doing other things that were fear based. And so it's important that you follow the 9 steps to feng shui system. It's important that you follow the steps because every step was organized according to what you do in other branches of ancient Chinese medicine. So first you take care of the most important things, the critical things, and then you start taking care of the least important things in terms of necessity. But the least important things are the most important in terms of desire. So for example, usually people don't hire me and say, hey, I have an incomplete floor plan. Can you help me with that? People will say, hey, I need help in my relationship. So can you help me enhance my relationship with partner, right? Doing enhancements for the life areas, that's not very important at all in Feng Shui. But it is high in the desire scale, right? And so as you go through the 9 steps to Feng Shui system, let me go through that. The 9 steps, first complete the floor plan. Second, find balance, create balance. Third, make sure there's vitality through proper circulation of qi. Step number 4, tune into nature. Step number 5, create a harmony of color, shapes, and materials. Step number 6, make sure your home is telling you the right language. It's using the right language to tell you the message that you need to hear. Number 7, declutter and simplify. Number 8, enhance the life areas. And number 9, furniture arrangement and accessories. And so most people, their desire is on the last 3. Most people want to simplify, they want to declutter. They want to enhance the life areas because that kind of works like magic sometimes. And then they also want to do the furniture arrangement and make sure, they buy the artwork and make sure things look pretty. So what is high in people's perception of what they desire is not really so important. And the things that they don't think about are the things that are the most important. So when you do the first 3 steps, you do completing the floor plan, balancing the home, and promoting vitality, a lot of the life areas kick into place by themselves. And so it's very important that you follow this method, right? And so we're facing right now all this pandemic and the financial consequences of it. We're seeing the stock market plummet, right? And people are really scared in the United States and all around the world. And so before we started the recording, I was sharing with those of you who are here recording this live that my family is taking extreme precautions because we could be carriers. We don't have any of the at-risk factors, right? We are not any of us of the age where it starts becoming a risk. We don't have any health conditions that might contribute to the severity of the virus. But my husband's a chiropractor and he's seeing patients every day. And so he's in very close contact with a lot of people. And some of his patients are seniors. So we're taking every precaution to make sure that we protect those patients. Now, there's a concept that I have seen a doctor in Spain talk about that nobody in the United States is talking about this, and it's something that is called viral load. So nobody is talking about this. Let me see, there's a question. This is true. All our music teachers are not concerned. They are concerned about losing their jobs. All live music opera is closed, and the young people are quite resentful. Yeah, and so that's part of what's happening, right? Is that the younger people, the ones that know, are not going to get it seriously, and that they're likely to not exhibit any symptoms or only have very mild symptoms. These are the people that are like, I don't care what is going to happen to other people. I'm just going to go live my life. I want to do what I want to do. But in our case, because of my husband being in contact with patients and some patients being seniors, then we have to be super careful. And even for young people, we're starting to see more data as the days go by. Some young people have gotten the virus and some young people have died. Even some children have gotten the virus and some percentage, a very small percentage of them have passed on. And so why this happens is what this Spanish doctor was explaining is called carga viral, which translates as viral load. So say, for example, that you go to see a personal trainer in a gym, and that's the only person you see in the gym. And that person is a carrier for the coronavirus. And from you being in contact with him, you get exposed to 1 million units of the coronavirus. And compare that to going to the movies. And in the movies, there are 10 people who are coughing and sneezing and they have the coronavirus. So instead of being exposed to just 1 million units of the virus, you get exposed to 10 million or 20 million units of the virus. And so, whereas a certain viral load would have been easy enough for the body of a young person to deal with, the amount of viruses that they're being exposed to, the number of viruses they're being exposed to, might make the difference between their immune system response and the severity of the virus in them. So that said, let's talk about how Feng Shui can protect you from this. I want to share some stories with you today. And first, I'm going to show you a story of something that is called pivoting. Pivoting is the ability to change directions and to change the course of your life depending on what happens around you. Pivoting is an amazing skill to have. So this I learned from Donald Miller, who's an expert in marketing, and yesterday he had a live event. He was talking about a restaurant he consults for, and this restaurant is, I believe, in Oregon. It's a fine sit-down restaurant, and he has encouraged them over the years to get a mailing list, to not just have people come over, be happy, do a review, but to actually get their mailing list and stay in touch with them often so that they can be in the top of their minds. So when people in Oregon that the coast had been hit harder with the virus, when they started closing restaurants, they had to close too. But they immediately pivoted and they decided to still do 3 things in the restaurant, or to do 3 new things with the resources in the restaurant. And they sent out an email to their thousands of followers in their email list. And so one of the things they did is they improvised a drive-through window so people could come and get burgers. And of course, because it's a fine restaurant, they're fine burgers. They're not the kind of restaurants you would get at a fast food place. And by 9 a.m., they were out. They opened at 8, and by 9, they were out of burgers. On the other hand, they started also selling bread, making bread and selling it, because people love their bread. You know how that you go into some restaurants and they give you the bread in the beginning. And so they started selling that bread. And the other thing they did is they started offering delivery of meals to people's homes. And so they're doing great. And that is pivoting. That is taking the circumstances of what's happening around you and changing directions, changing the course of your business, or changing the course of your goals that are not business related, and still being able to thrive at a time when other people are struggling, right? That is pivoting. But that's not what we're talking about here when we're talking about Feng Shui. It's not about pivoting. It's not about being able to respond better to what happens in your environment. It is something completely different. And this is how it works. And to illustrate that, I'm going to tell you the story of Maria Montessori. So I'm sure you all have heard about the Montessori schools that are so popular all over the world, and which is a different kind of teaching, a different kind of learning. Maria Montessori was born in Italy, and she had a son, and that son was out of wedlock. So for a long time, she couldn't raise him because it was so far back, and it was really a bad thing for somebody to get pregnant while single. And so when he became an adult, he sought her, and he became a partner in her business of the Montessori schools. One time, she received an invitation from people in India. So her ideas were spreading in India, and there were this group of people in India that wanted to have Montessori schools all over India. And they had been begging Maria Montessori to come over and teach and go to different provinces. And they wanted her to stay years. And Maria Montessori said, no, I'm going to go for 3 months. And so she was going to just go to one big city and train some people, and then they could go to the other towns. And she went, And when it was about those 3 months when she was planning to return to Italy, that is when World War II started. And so she heard from people back home in Italy, and they said, don't come back, it's really bad, stay where you are. So Maria Montessori stays for the next 4 years, the duration of the war. She stays in India, teaching and traveling and going to different places and making a difference for people in India in terms of education. And when the war ends, she comes back to Italy, so she didn't have, like other people, she didn't have to escape the war. She didn't have to hide from the war. There's some people, you hear their stories that they were in Europe when the war started. They were able to get out quick. They had connections, they had their passports, they had money, so they were able to get out and be one of the first people migrating before they started closing the doors to Jewish people, right? And so that is pivoting. Those people who the war started and then they left because they had the resources and everything, that's pivoting. But Maria Montessori, that's what we're talking about, living in an environment which has a totally different vibration, because she left before the war started. And she was in an ideal circumstance for the next 4 years, that while the war was happening, she was getting paid to do something she loved to do, and something that the people in India had been desperate to have her do for her. And so she completely missed the war. And that means she was living in a vibrational plane so different, so much higher than other people, that she was not even vulnerable to the war. The World War II could not exist at the same vibrational level as Maria Montessori. So that's what we're talking about, that you can do with Feng Shui. And there's two things that Carla had mentioned. One thing is the coronavirus has to do with the lungs, and the lungs have to do with certain aspects of Chinese medicine and certain aspects of Feng Shui. So we're going to explore that today. But she had also mentioned, which had been also my perception before, but this is the first time that I have somebody mirror that to me, about how you seem to exist in a world where you're not worrying like other people, where you are not anxious like other people, and where the things that happen in your life are so much less in terms of impact of something that's happened in the general community, but are not happening to you. And so in the case of Maria Montessori, the World War, it was in many places of the world, but it wasn't in the whole world. Now, the coronavirus is a little different because it is all over the world. And if there's any places where it's not right now, it's going to get there. And so you cannot be in a situation where you're going to completely escape the coronavirus or the consequences of the coronavirus, but you actually can be in a really good place compared to it. So let's explore the idea with the lungs and the coronavirus affecting the lungs. The coronavirus, I don't know if you have read about this, but people say, well, it's just like the common cold or it's just like the flu. Yes and no, it's a little bit different, because it has in its structure like the keys that affect the cells in the lungs. So it settles in the lower lungs, and it causes some serious problems once it settles. And so that's why shortness of breath is one of the problems with the coronavirus. And so in Feng Shui and in Chinese medicine, we say that human beings are a composite soul. They're a two-part soul. So on the one side, you have your spirit that came from heaven. On the other side, you have your body that is the gift from the earth. When you put a spirit and the body together, then you get a human soul. The human soul, the unique individual you are today, that is your soul. There's part heaven, the spirit, and part earth, the body, right? And so the heaven gives you some gifts, and those gifts are compassion, benevolence, and the ability to think and control yourself. And the earth gives you other gifts, and those gifts are your instinct, your gut feeling, the power, the strength, the force that you need also to survive. And so these two things come together. And if you have ever seen somebody doing Tai Chi or doing martial arts, they do this salute or they do this salute. And what that means is that the part of your soul, that it comes from spirit, which is represented by the left hand, the left arm and hand, and the symbol of the green dragon, is always going to be in control to what your right arm symbolizes, which is the white tiger, which is the gift from the earth, the survival instinct, that strength, that fury. But it's always going to be in control by our benevolent aspects, our compassion, our ability to control and to make decisions through thought, not just instinct and impulse. And so we salute like this or like this, and it's a commitment that you're doing, that your dragon side, which is the gift from heaven, is always going to be in control of your tiger side. Now, the left arm is connected energetically to the liver and the gallbladder, and the right arm is connected energetically to the lungs and the large intestine. And so in Chinese medicine, they say that there are 3 benevolent sages that live in your liver, that reside in your liver, and there are 7 warriors that live in your lungs. And so when you go back to this, it is the 3 benevolent spirits controlling the 7 warriors. So what happens when your life is being threatened, when the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism kicks in, is the tiger is doing away with the benevolent sages, because in some cases, if your life is being threatened, you're going to need your body to go into, to override some parts of your thinking so that you're not afraid and so that you can have extra energy to take the actions you need to take in order to survive. For example, if a large dog like a German Shepherd was attacking you, right, and you have to defend yourself, then you cannot be considering what is the compassionate thing to do. The benevolent sages, they have to be pushed away by the instinct of survival. But as soon as possible, you have to return to this balance. Now, sometimes the 3 benevolent sages in the liver, they go away and you don't know the reason. And then you are left with the warrior spirits, which represent the energy of the tiger, which have no control over their instincts or their impulses. And so when the lungs are being affected, this vital energy, the survival instinct from the tiger, is being depleted, right? And you can still have there your sages, your 3 benevolent sages can be there and they can be thriving, but there's no opposition. They're supposed to have a little bit of opposition. They're from the 2 forces. And so when this side weakens, then there's that benevolence can take over too, and is not always positive. And I'll show you some examples of this. And so some people right now are having a super hard time suffering for others. One of my friends, she is super affected by the news when she sees, when she hears about children have died in China. So the benevolence takes over and there's too much suffering. And because the energy in the lungs is weaker, not just for the people with the coronavirus right now, but for most people in the world, that energy is being weakened because there's a lot of grief around it. And so then there's sorrow. Somebody had told me pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So there's always going to be pain in the world, right? But suffering is getting attached to that pain and letting it consume us. And so I'm seeing people who are trying to help people who are in need, even though they can't. And so they don't have enough groceries in their home, but they hear about somebody that has less than them, so they go with their groceries to deliver, right? And in the beginning here in the United States, a lot of people, a lot of children eat in the schools and they eat for free because their families are poor and they can't pay for food. Some of the people in one of the local groups I belong to on Facebook, they were trying to solve the problem by themselves. They were trying to find out what children did not have food, and they were trying to take food to those families. And what happened is that a lot of scammers came in, and these people ended up giving money donations, grocery donations, to people who were just scammers, who were getting this from them and from other people, because they don't have the ability to screen to make sure that the people who are asking for help really need the help. And so the right channel at this time is not necessarily to go and try and help strangers. If you know people that are close to you, or that you know through people that you know, and you know they are in trouble, yes, by all means help them if you can. But you have to also be aware there's a lot of scammers. And so if you're trying to help strangers, it's better to help strangers through a channel that has already been established, that is able to screen and recognize when people are trying to take advantage of the system. So what was happened in us is some people talked to the school board, and the school board was already on it, and they are still delivering the meals. Their cafeteria personnel are still showing up, they're still producing the meals, and the children and their families can come on certain days and pick up the meals at least 3 times per week. And so this, you have to be careful. Last week, when we had another meeting, we asked the I Ching about what to do in these times to make sure we're okay at the end of this situation. And some of the advice of the I Ching was to not feel guilty because other people are not doing as well as you. And I confess, we were kind of shocked, right? If you are here right now and you were there at that meeting, we were like, what can that mean in the beginning, right? But now I'm starting to see more of it. If you prepared better for situations of crisis, like for example, if you have savings, if you have a stock pantry, you are not going to suffer as other people are going to suffer. But that doesn't mean you are supposed to feel guilty about it. That's not the purpose. When you start working on your feng shui, you're going to balance everything. First, you're going to make sure there's a sense of wholeness. Then you're going to make sure that you're correcting excesses or deficiencies. Then you're going to make sure there's vitality. Then you're going to tune into nature, harmonize color, shapes, and materials, which creates harmony within your family. Tell the right stories by using the right symbols. Declutter and simplify through the use of beauty. Enhance the life areas. And finally, make sure that every room in your home has everything it needs in order to look beautiful and be comfortable. And so we're going to do that. As we do that, we are changing our perceptions. And in Feng Shui, we do everything in 3 levels: heaven, earth, and humankind. So at the level of thoughts, at the level of emotions, and at the level of physical action. And so thoughts for heaven, emotions for humankind, and physical action for earth. And so we're trying to do everything in the same 3 levels. And as we work on the Feng Shui, the energy starts lifting and things don't happen to you in the same way. I'm going to share a story from my life, and then I'm going to share some examples of former clients and how they have thrived in times of crisis. And so I think it was in September of last year. I had been teaching fitness classes on the side of my side gig for 9 years at this gym, where I had an excellent relationship with everybody for 9 years, no problems at all. And all of a sudden, there started being problems, and I felt kind of like they were pushing me away. And at the same time, I had stopped homeschooling. I was sending the children to public school. So at the time, I thought, well, it seems like doing this side thing of teaching fitness classes was something that was compatible with the children homeschooling, but not with them going to public school. And but it was hard because it was such a sudden change, and I didn't understand why something that had worked so well for me, because it's awesome because I didn't have previously a lot of self-discipline or motivation to work out. It's awesome to say, hey, I have a schedule, I have to show up these days during the week, I have to teach a class, and I don't have to struggle with my internal motivation because there's that external motivation to work out. And all of a sudden that disappeared. I was feeling very uncomfortable and I couldn't understand it. But here's what happened. Because I quit, teaching almost all fitness classes, I had more time to stay home, I had more time to search for things, and I had more time to join groups. One of the groups I joined, that the time where they meet conflicted with my previous schedule of teaching fitness. One of those groups was an international cooking club. Over a month ago, I went to the International Cooking Club, and somebody who had friends in China, she showed me these cute photos from social media of them trying to get creative with the last of their groceries. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I went home and I told my husband about this. And the next day we were at Costco, super stock in our pantry, because we thought, if that's going to happen, if that is happening in such an organized country as China, we don't know what's going to happen here. And I would not have had this foresight if I had still been teaching my fitness classes, which was, my schedule before my life so well fit into my comfort zone. And then all of a sudden, not doing that, having to be in charge of my own workouts without a group to lead, that was challenging for me. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been in touch with these groups that helped me see what was coming. Another thing, in the mornings, I had too much time, and in the evenings, a lot less time with the children going to public school. So in the mornings, I had started to look at different services to automate certain things in my life. And so I had gotten on a service that delivers cleaning products and household products to your home. And we've been getting that for months. And I also found a product where they deliver organic produce for almost half the price to your home every week. And so because I had the time, I had done all these things. And all these things that we have done have helped us be better prepared for this situation. And so we are not suffering the way other people may be suffering because of this preparedness, right? Another thing that happened is, if you remember the recession of the year 2008, when that happened, my husband and I had no debt except for the mortgage and his student loans. But previously, we had had quite a bit of personal debt. The year before the recession happened, we took a financial course called the Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. As a consequence of that, we had paid off all our personal debt. We had started to have savings and be a lot more steady and secure financially. So when the recession came, our lifestyle changed very little. There were some adjustments we needed to make, but other than that, not much difference, right? And so I have had realtors that were clients in a year that the house market was down, and they did better than any previous year, and they did better than all their peers because they were using Feng Shui. And I have had clients who were financial planners who did great, who actually soared during years that there were recessions. There's a saying in Spanish that is something like that: when the river is turbulent, it's a good time for fishermen. And this is one of those times. The things are turbulent, but you can already see there's some people who are going to profit from this. For example, the people who make and sell toilet paper are definitely profiting. The people that make hand sanitizer are profiting. Grocery stores are selling more. And so every change that comes is going to have positive energies with it and negative energies with it. But the vibration at which you keep yourself is going to make a big difference on how you experience these things. Now, Feng Shui, and especially the 9 steps to Feng Shui, is going to raise the vibration of your home so that you can have a better chronic vibration. A lot of people, they tell you have to raise your vibration by meditating, having positive thoughts, focusing on what you want and constantly thinking about it, visualizing things. Imagine you already have it, right? But that can only affect your temporary vibrational level. Your chronic vibrational level is created by more profound habits. How much do you sleep every day? How well do you eat? Are you able to relax every day? Are your relationships with the people you live good? All these things and the feng shui of your home are going to determine your chronic vibration. The idea is to be like Maria Montessori, that when bad things are going to happen, they completely miss you. Or if they don't miss you, they don't affect you in the same way that they affect others. Now, the idea is not so that you can do well when other people are not doing well. Don't think that way. The idea is that you and your loved ones can do well in any circumstance. It is about you being well, your family being well. When that is achieved, then you're going to be a lot more available and able to help other people.